the 25th, Tuesday, 2020. Welcome back to the show. We have an amazing guest today, but before we introduce him, I'd like to welcome my co-host, Carlos Ponce, just outside of Mexico City. Hi, Carlos. Welcome back to the show. Here we go. One more time.
One more time, Tulio, from the city
Excellent.
of Cuernavaca. Just remember that.
Cuernavaca.
Yeah.
And I'm broadcasting live from Laguna. So here we are. So we have Hemant Sikaria, who is the CEO and co-founder of Cybrus, and looking forward to speaking with you about an interesting topic today. But before we do that, let's get to know you. Please, Hemant, introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on the show, Tulio and Carlos. A little bit about myself, and feel free to interrupt at any point to ask questions. So I grew up in India. I was in New Delhi for first 18 years of my life, and then moved to the US, did my undergrad and master's from Carnegie Mellon University, and then moved to Bay Area in San Francisco area. I worked at Oracle for about a year and a half, and then I was one of the early engineers at Tesla, where on the software team. So I was there for many years, and now I'm CEO and co-founder of a company called Cybrus, which is doing stuff in the automotive space with software.
So thank you. So speaking of Cybrus, tell us a little bit about what gave birth to this idea and what do you guys do?
Yeah, so I think it has everything to do with sort of my work history too. So when I was at Tesla, I did a lot of work on software updates. So typically a vehicle now has a lot of software, millions and millions of lines of code. And I worked on the system to help update the software that goes into the car. And it's a little bit different in a car versus on a phone or a laptop, because your phone or laptop only has one CPU, one computer, but your car has on the order of about 100 computers, and they're much smaller. And it's a safety critical system. So updating a system of that sort requires a lot of best practices and a lot of different techniques to ensure reliability. So that's kind of what I did at Tesla. And why this is relevant is a couple of years ago, I have another vehicle from another automaker, and that got recalled 3 different times for software. And it was something where I had to go into the dealership to get the car serviced. Whereas if it was a Tesla vehicle, it could have been done over the air. So it's over 4G or Wi-Fi connection to the vehicle. And this really got me thinking about, hey, why can't the other automakers do this right now? And after a lot of research, we came to the conclusion that the industry is far behind where Tesla was. And so we started this company with the idea of bringing advanced software and technology to the whole industry, and really creating things using our experience, but creating it from the ground up, using the latest technology that's available in the market, and using that to accelerate the growth of electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles, all of which have a lot of software and need this kind of platform to manage that software.
Interesting. Years ago, when big data became a big, no pun intended, a big thing. The only company that had invested about $1 billion to use that kind of analytics capability was Walmart, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, they had invested $1 billion to get really smart about how they use data, which they used for supply chain across the board, pricing, you name it. So I was with Axiom, which really introduced the commercial part of cloud computing and big data. And we always just say, you get the power of Walmart for the regular business, right? Mm-hmm. So what I'm hearing is the power of the Tesla for any auto manufacturer who wants to update the software in the cars. So let's go right into the topic today. Carlos, what is the topic today? I know you want to announce it because it's interesting. Please tell us what the topic is, and let's kick this off.
Yeah, well, it's interesting and intriguing to say the least, because it's you'll see, it's software is eating your car. So when I hear that, was like, Wait a minute. I got to learn more about this. So software is sitting in your car, or in other words, defining the future of the software-defined car. So that's the topic that our guest chose. First question that I have for you, Hemant, is why did you choose this particular topic? Why did you think it was relevant for today's day and age?
Yeah. So with all of the electric vehicles and self-driving vehicles, there's a lot of software that goes into the vehicle now, and a lot of things that needed to be done with mechanical hardware uh, can be done better with software. And I think we're seeing more and more software in vehicles, and it's reducing their dependency and reducing the complexity of the mechanical pieces in the vehicle. Of course, you still need the mechanical linkages, and you still need a motor and a battery or an engine, but a lot of the complexity is being moved into software. Hence, I think software is eating your car.
Great. Thank you, Hemant. Okay. Your questions are starting to pile up, but Tulio, please go ahead.
So all right. So I remember, I'm probably dating myself here. I remember when you had points contact ignition system on cars, right? Everything was mechanically driven. You had a little bit of electrical to drive all the mechanics. And now everything is software driven. So walk us through what your company does in terms of providing, what is it exactly that your company does as it relates to supporting the various different CPUs inside of a car and software systems inside of a car? Tell us a little bit how it works.
Sure.
And tell us why software is eating my car. Please, I beg you.
So what we do is we provide a platform for sending software to the car and getting data out of the vehicle, right? So getting data to the car and getting data out of the vehicle at a very high level. And once that kind of infrastructure is in place, then you can do a lot more interesting things with it. But what we provide is a system that goes end to end. So we have a portal, a backend cloud infrastructure, and then some software that goes on the main computer in the vehicle, which is typically called a gateway or a infotainment unit or a telematics unit. So those are some of the big components in the vehicle. And that's where our software sits. And it's able to then talk to everything else that is underneath, which could be things that are driving your engine, your transmission, your brakes, all of that software and electronics can be communicated to from that central point. So we put our software on that central point, and then we're able to log the data that's happening in the vehicle. So there's about a few thousand different parameters that the vehicle has that can be tracked, and those parameters could then be used for unlocking additional use cases in the future. Go ahead, Tulio, you wanted to say something?
I'm curious, is the solution something you sell as an OEM solution to manufacturer, or I as a consumer can plug it into my OBD2 port kind of a thing, or both?
No, it's the former. So we sell this directly to the automakers. And the reason it's different is the diagnostic port, the OBD port that you're referring to, is a aftermarket thing that the OEM does not build. Typically, it's other companies that build that. And only about 50 to 100 parameters at best are available on that port. So you're seeing the tip of the iceberg in terms of the data that is available. And when you have it in the vehicle and it's integrated with the automaker, then you have access to a lot larger pool of data, which could be used for improving the vehicle safety. It could be used for improving the user experience. And I can give you a funny example on that one. So my brother had a vehicle where I guess I won't say the name of the brand, but it was a new vehicle and it had 3 months of free service for the online subscription. And I was very excited. I got in the car and it was nighttime and I was trying to turn on the light and I accidentally pressed the SOS button. And after pressing the SOS button, some lady picked up from a call center And instead of asking me if I'm safe and if everything's okay, the first thing she asked is, "Oh, sir, were you looking for the light?" And it was really funny, because I think she probably hears that all day because people are accidentally pressing the wrong button. But it's an example of something that could have been corrected with software in a future version of the vehicle, where the manufacturer learned, hey, we kind of just need to swap the position of these two buttons, because it's people are hitting the wrong button when they want to do this. But because they don't have access to that data, they don't have any understanding, and so they'll make the same mistake year after year on the model, on their vehicles.
So are you then building like analytics tools into the platform so that the manufacturer can make better decisions even when it comes to manufacturing in this example, or is it just providing the ability to do link up, link down? How wide does the product go in terms of enabling that kind of insight for the manufacturer?
Yeah, so we have a data collection platform that sits on that gateway in the vehicle, and it is able to record all data, but it can also record some subsets of data based on certain events. And that is actually the key, right? The key is not to log and record and upload all of the things that are happening in the vehicle. There's a lot of talk about, oh, the vehicle is generating terabytes of data. There's no way the infrastructure can handle uploading that and processing that. And the truth is, only about a few gigabytes of that data is actually useful. And even out of that, there can be some more smarts that happen on the vehicle to reduce that down to on the order of 100 megabytes, right? And so that is a load that can be processed with current infrastructure, with 4G and the back end. And so we are able to provide that sort of filtering of that data. A good example would be when your car goes from park to drive, the engineering team at the automaker wants to record the seat position and the brake and accelerator pedal position, maybe also record a feed of the backup camera, right? For 10 seconds when it goes into drive, right? For whatever reason, right? They can set that up in our cloud and push a command to their fleet of vehicles to say, when these conditions are met, record this data. So that they're able to record very small subsets of data.
Hemant, I'd like to ask you something. Sorry, Tulio, I just...
No, that's a great... Go ahead.
To jump in. I mean, yeah, sure, thank you. Hemant, think of me as someone who's fairly new in the tech world. I mean, my experience with tech pales in comparison to Tulio's. So from that angle, from that viewpoint, is where I'm going to be asking my question. Say that I am just a regular car owner, and I'm just learning about the role that software plays in a car, especially in a software-defined car. So if I start becoming intrigued about what sort of connection my car can have with fields like, for example, Internet of Things or security breaches, those kinds of things that might at some point concern me as a car owner. Mm-hmm. What would you tell me as someone who's really a novice in all these areas, mm-hmm. so that I can sleep well at night?
Yeah, so there's a hardware component to it and there's a software component to it. Mm-hmm. And the hardware component, there's a lot of regulation around it, and of course it's an evolving thing, but there's a lot of regulation around it to make sure that the vehicle is always doing the safest thing that it can, given all of the sensors and all of the things it knows about the vehicle. So there is, if your vehicle is compromised in some form or another, the vehicle will still try its best to act safely. For example, your brakes are electronically wired to a computer, but they're also wired to the actual brake pedal, right? So if the brake pedal is not pressed, but the computer sends a signal saying, hey, the brake needs to be applied, the vehicle can say, hey, I see a mismatch between what the software said and what I see as the mechanical position of the brake. Hence, I will not apply the brakes because you want the user to be in control of the vehicle. There are scenarios like the parking brake can be applied to reduce the speed, especially when a vehicle is about to go into an impact. So it can reduce the speed so that the impact of a crash is lower, but it doesn't have the capability of bringing the vehicle to a complete stop. And of course, these things will evolve and change over time. But there are a lot of regulations on in the auto industry, even from a software perspective, and a lot of safety standards that are followed. One particular one is called functional safety, and it's a very important standard that is being enforced and adopted across the board.
Cool. Thank you, Hemant. Okay, Tulio, back to you.
Yeah, great. So, which manufacturers are you targeting with right now? Are you getting more traction with domestic U.S. companies, a foreign company? Where are you seeing more traction, and how does this compare to some of the other solutions that are in the marketplace? What makes you guys different and unique?
Sure. I think for us, we're seeing traction across the globe, whether it's Germany, Japan, India, China, or US. Those are the 5 biggest markets that we are currently working in. And I think the biggest difference there are definitely competitors and they're much larger companies, but the biggest difference is our solution actually works. And this might seem silly, but we have a team of experts. We've been in the industry for a long time. We have seen and built firsthand a very large system in our past careers. And there isn't that kind of experience out there in the world right now. So because of our team's experience and all of the things that we've done and the product that we've now built, we are in a very unique position to help automakers. And we're hearing this from the automakers too. They're saying, hey, we've talked to a lot of different companies over the years, but none that has shown us a solution as incredible as yours. And we would like to take you to all our customers and put you on all our vehicles across the globe.
Well, that would be a big win, wouldn't it? That would be awesome for you guys, right? So tell us a little bit about the company. How long have you guys been at this, and number of people? What do you see your next big step forward in terms of your growth and your trajectory for what you wish to accomplish?
Sure. Yeah, we've been at it for almost exactly 2 years. It's 2 years and 10 days today. So we started on August 15th, 2018. And we're working with a lot of different automakers across the globe. Our team is about 45 people. It's always growing. So next time it might be a little bit higher. And we're funding most of our growth with sales, with product sales. So it's not, we do have venture capital that we've raised, but we are growing with revenue. So as we bring on more customers onto our SaaS platform and start using our product, we're using that to fund and fuel most of our growth. The next big milestone for us is to be deployed on 1 million vehicles. And it could be scooters, bikes, buses, trucks, luxury vehicles, sedans. It could be trucks. So combination of all of that, we want to hit that 1 million mark, early next year. That's our next big milestone. In terms of scalability, we've done it before at that scale, but it is a very good metric for us to have across different brands, across different models and different types of vehicles, be having our software running on that many units and impacting the lives of a lot of people in that way.
Any use cases so far in terms of impact that this kind of software and technology has given to manufacturer that have influenced their product, i.e. safety standards or things like, where to place a button that you mentioned earlier? Any use cases of that yet in terms of, hey, wow, we just learned something we didn't know and we're making different decisions as a result of that? or we're getting some predictive information of something that keeps breaking down that could inform how we should manufacture perhaps that part. Anything like that that's come up for you?
Yeah, I think it's funny. There's a lot of talk about machine learning and AI and applying that to vehicles. And certainly those things apply for autonomous vehicles, but just all the non-autonomous parts of the vehicle, uh, they are still, the industry as a whole is still far behind. So even some very basic insights are missing right now, and we're able to, fill that gap and bring those kinds of insights to the automakers. And a lot of examples have come up on that. I think the biggest one is preventing recalls from happening. There have been cases where a recall, even for software, has been outstanding for 2 years, right? And the best possible completion rates that the industry has seen is about 75%, or in that ballpark. So that means there's 25% of vehicles that were affected by that recall that have yet to go into service to get their car fixed. And this is a potentially very severe risk for the end consumer. And the government penalizes the OEMs for not having fixed all those cars. So the approach right now is they send mail, or they send some sort of reminder to these customers, or the customer sold the car to someone else, so you don't know who the owner is. Tracking down those vehicles is difficult, and then applying the safety patches is difficult. So being able to do that over the air, doing it overnight, those things help with improving the safety of vehicles and improving the safety of others that could be affected, in the case of an accident or a crash.
Now, I'm not an expert in the automotive industry, but I do know that, for example, a lot of manufacturers, they have deals or relationship with the dealership, so that the dealership obviously don't necessarily make their money just from selling the cars. They make their money from repairs, from warranty work. So there is a need for that flow of traffic, if you will, into the repair shop. So by removing the need to go there for a simple software upgrade and doing it over the air, does that change the dynamics of that relationship? And is that a limitation? Because I would assume, like Tesla, it's easy. They own everything, right? So, and frankly, they've got it right. It's like, why do we need to get more traffic into the dealership? We just rather do it over the air, less work, less effort. But the relationship with most of the U.S. manufacturers has been different. At least that's what I understood from years ago. So how does that now change? Is the program update done from the local dealer, or it's done from headquarters? How are you working through those challenges? Is that even coming up as a conversation?
It's actually very interesting, because that was one of the things that we thought would be a concern when we started the business. And we talked to a lot of dealerships, and we talked to a lot of automakers. And what we found was quite the opposite, actually. Dealerships would rather do lower volumes and higher margins and deal with less number of angry customers than, let's say there's a recall for 500,000, Ford F-150s. I don't know, right? Now those vehicles have to go into service, and the customer is not happy about it. They have to spend their time. There's a lot of scheduling that happens, and the overall fix takes an hour or an hour and a half. But there's a huge backlog, and it takes months to get a service appointment. So it's a big pain and a big headache for the dealerships as well. And they don't make that much money on it as compared to other types of higher paying jobs that they could be doing. The other part is, at the end of the day, a Ford dealership, while in the short run, it's great, they saw a recall, they might see some additional revenue. Their worry is, okay, tomorrow people are going to stop buying our brand, and they're going to go over and buy a Chevy, right? Or they're going to buy, a Toyota truck, right? And so they're also worried about protecting the brand, because that's their main source of livelihood. So they would rather not get in the way of that and let those kinds of issues be fixed quickly so that the brand continues to maintain a strong position in the market. So for those reasons, we haven't seen any sort of pushback, and the automakers, we've talked to them, they've said they haven't seen any big pushbacks from the dealer networks. So it's been very different from what we thought would happen when we first started our journey.
Yeah, well, good for you. I mean, in the age of COVID-19, that should certainly precipitate the need for these kinds of solutions. So manufacturers, if you're listening, reach out to Hemant's company. They've got a solution at Cybros that can help alleviate the need to go into the shop for basic software updates to the car. It's been a pleasure to have you as a guest today. Just finally want to ask you the journey for you, what it's been like building this company. Is this your first time as an entrepreneur, as a CEO of a startup?
Yeah, it's my first time, but I come from a family where we've done a lot of companies before. My dad has started a lot of companies. My brother has started a lot of companies. So I've kind of been in that mindset, and I've seen the challenges. So I knew what I was getting into, and it's certainly not been an easy path. And COVID did not make it any easier. I mean, it's tough being a small business in this kind of time frame. But fortunately for us, we are in an area where we might actually see an increase in business, and that's what has happened. Is we're seeing more interest for our products and our platform because of the fact that you mentioned, which is connectivity and remote upgrades and remote maintenance is becoming more important for people because they don't want to go back to the dealer. So we've seen an increase in business in that front, but overall, it's a fun ride. It's very exciting. It's a lot of fun to build something and to make an impact on the world. And of course, it comes with its own challenges. I think biggest challenges, beyond technology are sales and managing people and keeping people happy and making that team and that culture and doing things right. That's the other part is, having that honesty and integrity is important in a time when people are desperate to get more business. We want to make sure we take the high road and do things the right way.
No pressure filling in all those shoes of a lineage of entrepreneurs, right? Well, congratulations. Thank you for joining us today. What do we got coming up for the rest of the week, Carlos?
A lot of AI, Tulio. Tomorrow we'll be speaking with Vikyat Chaudhry. I hope I've got that right. The founder of Buzz Solutions, and we're going to be speaking about monitoring energy infrastructure using AI and software. So that's tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we're going to be talking with James Briggs, the CEO and founder of AI Collaborator, and the topic is collaborative enterprise AI. That's tomorrow and Thursday at 1 p.m. right here on DojoLIVE. Lots of AI, folks.
I'm looking forward to talking about these rolling blackouts we just had in California tomorrow and how AI could fix that. That should be an interesting conversation. Well, everyone, join us again tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific and on Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific. And until then, please stay.
And next Monday, don't forget the recap also, just so that you'll be on the lookout.
Yes.
Next Monday, it's going to be a recap of all of these 3 shows from this week. So we're going to be recapping in 10 minutes what we talked about this week, right here.
Just stay with us, Hemant, as we wrap up. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.